Hello to the Outfest audience. I'm Ashley Hoyle. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm here with the film team from I Used to Be 17, the shorts block. We're super excited to talk to you today, and we've hoped that you've just watched all of these shorts on our Outfest digital platform. And I'm super happy to introduce the filmmakers who are going to have a chance to introduce themselves to you.
Hi, I'm Kimi Ha Lee. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the writer-director of Kama Aina.
Hi, I'm Francisco Cabrera. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the writer-director of Junior.
Hey guys, my name is Vince Feller. I'm the producer and director of Chessie, and my pronouns are he, his, him.
Hi everyone, my name's Alexandra Morgan. I'm the co-producer and lead actor of Her Own Music, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Am I next in the order?
Oh, sorry, Evan, I totally cut you up.
No, you said the show. It was beautiful. It was great. My name is Evan Barber. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I was a cinematographer for Francisco Cabrera's film Junior.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Maychek. I'm the cinematographer of Jessie, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi, my name's Olivia Alexowski, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the writer-director of Her Own Music.
Hey everybody, my name is Terrence Day. I am the writer and director of Hyphen Ship, a visual poem. My pronouns are he, him, his.
I'm assuming I'm next. I think that was everyone. Hi, I'm Stephen Hill, and I am one of the lead actors in a beautiful film named Jessie.
Awesome. Thanks, folks, so much for joining us today, and definitely a huge congratulations to everybody. This is a really exciting shorts program that we're very, very proud to present. So I'm going to start by asking questions to the Junior team in no particular order, but super glad to have you here and interested to hear from both of you. Actually, there are such lovely sort of heightened visual moments in your piece. So I'd love to hear sort of how you achieved that and also sort of what the intention was behind that aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, most of that work comes from Evan Barber, who's the cinematographer.
But most great ideas come from Francisco Cabrera, the director.
And we're just gonna go back and forth the whole time. But yeah, no, I think queerness in itself for me has been always seen as magical or bending. So when we were thinking about Junior, I always thought that there was so much inside of him and so much internal struggle that almost started to like leak out of him. So I wanted to tackle that magical realism through, you know, as an embodiment of that internal turmoil and that internal hope. And I did that working with light with Evan Barber. So if you want to tell me a little bit about how we did that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really wanted was the transition to be like subtle, where it's kind of like we're going into this moment and we don't know exactly when the surreal aspects are starting and when like reality and fiction are kind of merging. And so we had to figure out, how do we make a human being like radiate light? It is not ethical to put lights inside of people anymore. So we just like had a light behind them and a lot of diffusion in the air, just bursting out behind them. And to get that kind of like refracted light look on Junior's face, we had a light shooting into a little pool of water on the floor that had a mirror underneath it that then bounced that light into his face. And we had a very specific person whose job was to just wiggle their finger in the water a little bit to get that kind of wavy look on his face.
I think I spent months just taking pictures of anything that reflected light. Mm-hmm. And just like any type of like car, you know, a light going, you know, the sunlight hitting a car window or anything, a glass. And then we just started taking pictures, and I would send it to Evan and see what felt like that internal, you know, journey. So that was kind of our process throughout.
That's so interesting to get to hear a little bit how you achieve that, because it certainly comes across, and I think it really echoes what the storyline is doing. So props to both of you. Seems like it's a real collaboration. And I think another really important aspect of your particular film was how the supporting characters are so key to that journey. So can you share a little bit how you worked with the cast to draw out those collaborative performances? And of course, Evan, how you captured them?
Yeah, no, we had an amazing cast. You know, we did like 7 rehearsals, which I already know that's like not a thing a lot of people get to have. But I mean, our rehearsals from the start were like playing tag or eating ice cream or, you know, barely, you know, talking about the script, but making sure that everybody got along with each other and everybody felt really comfortable going to those places. Yeah, our supporting cast is incredible. And a lot of it came with exploring the script with them. And we always talked about, you know, radical vulnerability and how we can somehow put ourselves and put so much of ourselves on screen. And, you know, they knew that I was doing that as a writer, but for them, you know, they felt comfortable in our space to also put so much of themselves on screen. So we have like Sherrod Taylor and Gonzalo Londoño and Yolila Palacios, who brought so much of themselves and so much care to each character, and be memorable, because for Junior, these characters, especially meeting Sherrod Taylor, who plays Gabriel, you know, that's the first queer person he ever meets. So, you know, I know for me, that was such a memorable moment in my life. So for Junior, you know, he needed to see Sherrod and be, you know, feel magnetic towards him. So, you know, I think the actors just kind of blew it out of the park, and they're like, they have their own stories and they have their own, you know, they have their own features that we can develop. And yeah, Evan.
In terms of capturing those performances, I think, I mean, so much credit goes to like those rehearsals that we had with Fran. I was present at so many of those, and that was a priority of ours, was for me to be present and watching and just seeing magic. I remember, oh, do you remember this, Fran, when like we were having a rehearsal and I like found that one shot and I just came up and I was just like a little misty-eyed, and then we were like tried to replicate it in the movie.
We're very emotional.
But being a part of those rehearsals was huge. Like seriously, playing tag with them, I have a connection with those people because they tagged me and I was it, and I tagged them and they were it. And on set, like just that, like we're playing around, that feeling was still there. And so while I was like in this crazy easy rig and I look like a crab and I've got this big black camera in front of them, they still know behind that is like a friend. And yep. I think that was a huge, huge part of these actors feeling vulnerable enough and comfortable enough to give these like the great performances that they did.
Yeah, because our lead is, and I'll keep it short, but our lead, you know, is a first-time actor. So he needed to feel, you know, that it was a safe space for him to take risks. You know, he's never acted before, but he, you know, we still have a group chat, of course, that we're still, you know, talking about all the updates, and he was able to connect with him. I remember, you know, our supporting cast teaching him how to dance, teaching him how to scream. Like he didn't know how to like project his voice, because there was a moment where he needed to like kind of stand his ground, and we were like shouting at each other. The supporting cast was shouting at each other, in obviously in a fun way. But I think I needed to have a supporting cast that was so fantastic to protect our lead. And I think they did that wonderfully.
I completely agree. And for me, yeah, it was also a super emotional watch. So props to you all on that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move over to the Her Own Music team and ask you folks a couple questions. The first being, there's so much, in a similar vein, there's so much youthful energy and emotion in your film. So can you speak to sort of what you folks did to bring that to the forefront?
Yeah, Ali, when I wrote it, Ali, I mean, she has a baby face, so that was really helpful. But we definitely wanted to capture that very youthful energy that only comes with being a teenager, really. And it's really hard to replicate as an adult, especially when you've had any sort of life experience. So we were extremely lucky to cast and the actor Zoe Tarakis, who at the time was a teenager, and they'd just come straight out of high school, and they were really fresh and had this like boundless youthful confidence and energy, and so sure of themselves, and that was exactly what I'd written in Tessa. Like Tessa was this very strong, clear of themselves kind of character that that even as a teenager, you know, sometimes I look at teenagers and I'm like, have you got it all figured out? Like, I don't remember feeling that way at all when I was a teenager. So I think that was written into that character, and that was just quite a lucky thing. But yeah, how about you, Ali? How did you prepare for it?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped that Zoe was a teenager, so I'd be like, what was that like? I think it helps though that we spent so long in pre-production working on the script, because we kind of wanted to, in this youthful energy, capture what homophobia is in teens. And I think it's kind of harder to remember that. I mean, not really, but it's more kind of, we're in my queer social circles, we're so much further along than when we were teenagers. And Olivia and myself and Hugh all developed the script a lot, trying to remember what were the insidious homophobic things that we heard in the schoolyard when we were hanging out with our friends, and that really made long-lasting impacts on our own identity. And I think that having those anchors in the script really helped me when I went to play Maddie, bring Maddie to life. So thank you for that, Olivia. Good writing.
Absolutely. And, sort of picking up on that point a little bit, can you both share sort of what you hope this film is making in terms of its statement about coming out, and especially about coming out in that sort of youthful setting?
I remember we were saying at the time, it was, we wanted to make a film that was about the moments before you come out, like not necessarily the big I'm gay moments that you have a lot on screen. It's those moments right before where you're like, I'm actually not sure where I stand in this, and I should be given the space to explore it, and in a space that's safe and doesn't already have pre-assessed judgments or like kind of casualized and internalized homophobia that you carry with you without even realizing it's there. Because I think for Maddie's character, they don't necessarily know who they are yet, and I think I think these things happen a lot when you're a teenager, but it's we just wanted to make it clear that it was like these spaces should be safe, these spaces should be explored, you should be exposed to lots of different people and communities. And when you're in this very isolated world of like a Catholic, all the single sex high school, there's not a lot of space for you to explore that and the kind of pitfalls of having just one way of looking at the world. I think that's how I feel about it. But
yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Olivia said. I think we wanted to make this film so that for one, so that people growing up in Australia in the private school system can maybe take a look at this film and have a clearer idea of maybe some of the constructs that are being placed upon them, but also, to kind of give the queer film community an example of a film where the person hasn't decided their label at the end of it and hasn't come out to their whole family, and there isn't that line where the mum says, I've known since you were 5, because that isn't everyone's story all the time. And actually, if you're questioning and that process takes time for you and you don't know how you want to identify yet, then that's totally fine. And everyone's journey is different.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, I think that gray area was so well rendered in your piece, and relatable to definitely folks in the private school system in Australia and far beyond, because of how poignantly you were able to sort of capture that feeling of questioning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I'm going to move on to the Hyphen Ship team, Terrence, and see if I can ask you a couple questions about your piece. it's just so incredibly uniquely constructed. And I was wondering if you could start by just sharing what your intention was behind the way that you structured it.
Yes, happy to. Well, first I'll start off by saying that I grew up in a conservative Christian household environment, sort of queer and the son of a pastor. And so I actually really started to express myself through poetry at a really young age. And that was sort of my main vehicle of expression, probably until about college when I started to experiment and play with visual storytelling. And found that a lot of what I couldn't make a language for on the page when it came to poetry, and a lot of the emotions that were growing more and more complicated that I was withholding and holding inside, I was able to find a language for that visually on screen. And so when it comes to the sorts of narrative stories that I want to tell, typically stories that are sort of engaging in conversations that make us reimagine what we think about Black male identity, and also that are attempting to destigmatize mental health, specifically within communities of color. And so I'm always just looking for ways to sort of bring in that poetic element and sort of approach narrative from a way that sort of maybe eludes expectation or what we're thinking, and try to create an experience that is less about sort of the plot of what happens next, and really more about the feeling or that emotion, that heightened emotion that I'm trying to articulate, that I often feel like there aren't words for.
Absolutely, and it's just it's so gorgeous, your film, and I think that you can see how it's so literary, the way it comes across, and you've really blended the mediums very well, very impressively done. And related, I'm curious what you would say about your use of time in the film. It's such a complex and creative sort of application. So can you sort of share how time influenced the story that you were telling?
Yes, I think I have a lot to say about time in general, and just even, the film medium and how it, compresses and allows us to kind of explore time. But I think just from a practical standpoint, it's such a larger story. It was originally, or it still is, a mini series that I've been sort of playing around with, that really is just exploring specifically how, one Black man's life is shaped by the medias and the different things that he absorbs and takes in, the different lessons that he's learning throughout his life. And I'm so interested in so many things that usually are trying to do two things at once. Julie Dash is a big inspiration for me, and I'm attracted to stories that are ambitious in that way, I guess. And so I wanted to be able to, both with the miniseries and with the short film, wanted to be able to explore the themes and thread in all the different ideas that I wanted without having to dilute them. And the short kind of became a way for me to experiment with the large ideas I wanted to do with the miniseries by saying, okay, how do I sort of chip at and dwindle down and get to the, like, how can I show you as much as possible with saying as little as possible? And so the short really became an experiment of how can I fit in this larger story into this smaller container, and time sort of, the way that, film allows us to sort of speed time up and expand time really allowed me to do that. So some things happen off screen that I'm aware of as the writer, but that I really leave up to the interpretation of the audience. And it involves a lot of trust in that way. And that sometimes you won't get the story on the first watch, but again, you get the feeling, and hopefully that feeling is potent enough that you want to engage and ask questions about what you just watched.
Absolutely. Certainly for me it was. I imagine I'm not the only member of the digital Outfest audience that will be very interested in seeing the more fleshed out story there, because you absolutely are able to capture so much, and with very impressive concision and poetry. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your thinking there.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm going to switch over to the team from Jesse to ask you folks a couple questions. I'd just love to hear from everybody. What was your animating impulse in being involved in this project, and of course for the director in creating it?
First of all, I want to say I'm very excited to see all these films. It's really interesting to hear everybody talking about it, and then so anyway, I just wanted to say that before we start. This film. I wanted to make essentially because it serves for a bigger piece, for a feature film that I'm still working on. Actually, I'm still writing a script now that I'm collaborating or working on with Miss Peppermint, who's been very tremendously helping me sort of shaping the much bigger, the feature aspect of it. So in some ways it's a character study but I was always very intrigued by essentially our hero Jessie, who is really in between all these different worlds, because she's like, she's half Swiss, she's mixed race, she's transgender, and then her, mainly in the short, obviously, is her relationship to her estranged father, which is was sort of the main piece that we're sort of exploring in this, which I was very lucky that Steven was on hiatus from Magnum that he's shooting, and took time on a kind of busy schedule to kind of shoot this last summer, a few very hot days last summer. And also Caitlin had time to be part of this team to kind of create this. So that's kind of how it all came about.
Fabulous. And I'd ask you, Stephen, directly, it is such a poignant character study, and Jessie's so bold and such an inspiration, I think. Can you share what parts of her you really connect to, and what it was like to inhabit the sort of adversarial role that you had to?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of jumped at the opportunity to do this, working in network television and not being, sometimes on network television, you can be number one on the call sheet and not actually get a really, really well-rounded character. So to have the opportunity I play an awesome, awesome Black man already. But to play this Black man that explores a world that you don't always get on network TV was awesome. And then I studied acting at a school that was Black Nexus at one point, and now it's Susan Batson Studio. And I met Vince there, and there were several people from that school that were all involved. So it was like basically coming home for homecoming to my alma mater and doing an awesome film. So I'll do that every summer if I can. You know what I mean? So, but I also just really wanted to learn. I think, unfortunately, we're fortunate that I'm in New York, right? I'm in Hawaii right now, but I'm from New York. So we meet a lot of people from all over the world, all over the country, from that have a different viewpoint on sexuality and socioeconomics, so we learn a lot in places like New York and LA and so on and so forth. But there are just so many pockets of life where people don't get to understand each other. And I think that Jessie explores one of those pockets. And I like to be the character that actually gets to understand that and learn as I was filming. So it's pretty awesome.
Thank you for that. Yeah, fabulous. And, I think that that's one of the strengths of the film. Hopefully this will be something that reaches people and is educational as well. So thank you so much. And then finally, I'll close it out by asking some questions of Kimmy from Kama'ina. And I'm just wondering, just off the bat, so many queer youth experience homelessness. It's, such a widespread issue. I'm wondering what message that you hope this film might send specifically to them.
Well, I think particularly with this community, the Village in Hawaii, I think that they've really done a tremendous job of creating a community-first alternative. And for me, that's what I was so drawn to when I first started researching this community and first met Twinkle, just that, there is such a sense of organization, safety. They are very self-sufficient. They farm. They've been able to raise $1.5 million to buy their own land to completely relocate, so they're no longer threatened by the government for sweeps. And what really got to me, I think, was that Twinkle is, a self-identified queer woman and has taken in, over the course of the year, like over 25 LGBTQ runaway youth. So she really has, maybe not intentionally, but she has created sort of this, de facto encampment and safe haven for queer homeless youth. And it's just a beautiful, uplifting, incredible story.
It really is, and the protagonist is such a huge part of that. So I'm wondering sort of if you can speak a little bit more about the inspiration and influence there of Twinkle, because it's such a resilient and impressive person and young person to be able to present to your audience.
Well, she was someone who I'm a TV writer as well, so I was writing a pilot, and she was an inspiration for a character, and I just continuously kept researching her and became more and more obsessed with her. And I had this little like picture on the cork board where I write, and my sister's a journalist, and she was like, I bet you could find her if you just keep reaching out to other journalists in Hawaii who have worked with her. And finally, I was able to get her contact. And, a week later, we were swimming in the ocean together. And just in terms of like the research for this project, it took many years of really gaining her trust, the community's trust, doing, a ton of interviews, because homelessness in general is such a multifaceted, complicated issue. I toured shelters, I talked to youth outreach groups, and really felt like the type of story that I wanted to tell was not something that veers into like PSA territory. I think that marginalized voices and marginalized stories are valid, whether or not there is this moment of triumph or redemption. And just in terms of finding Malia, she was a scout. I saw her in a local Starbucks, and she was sort of goofing around with her friends, and we exchanged Instagram handles and had kept in contact over the course of the year. And when I came back the following year and showed her this script and was like, I would love if you would be part of it, there were just so many uncanny, kind of like ridiculous coincidences. Like the character in my script was Mahina Kamalani. Her name was Malia Kamalani. I had no idea. They were both 16, experiencing homelessness or hidden homelessness. And it just felt like such a perfect role for her. And then obviously, wanted to be sensitive of not cannibalizing anybody's story, but trying to sort of authentically take elements of her life that she felt comfortable sharing. And then also, I think it's really important that it's not her exact lived experience, because I do think that it's very difficult to A, relive specific traumas, or B, for her, I just don't want to denigrate, what she brought to it as an actor, because it was really her memorizing lines and, going for it. So.
Absolutely, but the personal element really does shine through, and it never wavers from its humanity at all. So props to you and to your cast. It was really phenomenal. But thank you guys all so much for joining me today. This was really fun and so great to hear your takes a little bit deeper. I'm sure the audiences will also really enjoy that. And I'd encourage all of you folks watching at home to continue watching anything available on the Outfest platform up until August 30th. And I'll turn us into gallery view so we can all say a loving and warm goodbye to everybody who tuned in. But thanks you all again for logging on and for taking the time to meet today. I know we're probably all over the world, so we've got different zones, and it's much appreciated to come together like this. Like I said, it's really a bright spot to be able to talk to you about these awesome films.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good day,
so
folks.
much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
great to meet you
you.
all. Congrats again. Really great program.
You too. Congrats, everyone. So
Bye
nice
now.
to meet you all.